Hey guys, Zizek here, and this time we're looking finally at the Blazing Team Yo-Yos. So I was super excited about this when I first heard about it because all of these designs for the creatures and everything really reminded me of Kaijudo, and it's from Hasbro, so I assumed it was the same people that worked on Kaijudo, but that is not at all the case. The show is not amazing, but we're going to talk about the toys today. So like I said, this is Hasbro. This is their version of Blazing Teen, which is was a live-action series and then a cartoon in China. I believe it's China. And it was massively popular over there. It's pretty much their version of Beyblade, but it's made by Aldi, and it's basically just a yo-yo show. Now, they did what they did with Kaijudo, where they brought it over and kind of westernized it. It's now Blazing Team instead of Teen, and it's Masters of Yo Kwon-Do. It's basically they're doing kung fu moves with yo-yos to fight bad guys. The show has little to nothing to do with yo-yos, though, so that's kind of the main problem with it. But anyways, what we're looking at today is a level 2 Beast Wrangler yo-yo. Now, there's 5 different levels of yo-yos that they have right now. It goes from Apprentice to Master. And as you go up, they get, more and more difficult or have some kind of trick to them or something like that. This is a level 2, so it's pretty easy. The level 1s are just yo-yo balls, pretty much. If you've seen those before, they just go down and come back up on a spring. They don't actually yo-yo. So those are just for little kids that want to act like they're playing in the show, I guess. But level 2 is an actual yo-yo, so this is the first one I got. It's an auto-return yo-yo. It says easy return up there. Auto return for assisted classic play. The back is just a bunch of legal stuff. And on the side, we have some of the other yo-yos that are out, like the Lightstorm Revealer, which I actually really excited to get, and the Morph Master, which I really love to see that one too. So let's open this up and take a look at it. Okay, so inside, you don't get a lot, as expected. By the way, this auto return yo-yo is actually $6, so these are super cheap, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But inside you get a really simple Hasbro-esque instruction where it's just pictures, not a lot of words, telling you how to wind up the yo-yo, how to throw it down, and how to replace the string. This is actually kind of worth noting. Since this is an auto return yo-yo, you actually have to loop the string around the axle twice, so you shouldn't need to change your string unless you somehow really mess up your string and have to break it, but just in case, if you ever have to change the string, loop it twice around the axle. Okay, so here is the yo-yo itself. I love the design on all of these so far. I love this one. It kind of reminds me of like a 90s style, like graffiti art they used to do in Pogs and all that. This is the green monkey, if you couldn't tell. There's all sorts of different colors and animals that you can get. The auto return have this little like turbine design on the outside, which actually does push air. Like if you throw it hard enough, you can feel air like being blown out of the sides. I don't think that actually does anything performance-wise, but it's kind of cool that's there. Now on the back, you've got the Blazing Team logo, and inside you can actually see the ball bearings and kind of the springs, which is how this works. Which, speaking of, let's actually open it real quick to show you how it does work. These actually do twist off. Some people are saying that these don't open. It is super stiff. I didn't realize they twisted open either until my girlfriend decided to try and break it in half. But they do twist open, just like any good yo-yo. So if we get the string out of the way here, you can see one side is just the axle, and you can see some little ridges here. There's basically little bitty teeth that help grab the string so it retracts easier. And on this side, we've got the axle, which we can actually pull out here. So I can show you, see those two little white pieces in there? Those are on springs. You can kind of see it there. So what happens when you spin this down, those ball bearings, gravity will make them pull apart, which will make those white clamps open up, which allows this to spin freely. So whenever it starts to slow down, those balls are going to come together, and it's going to clamp back on this rubber ring here and stop it. So it's going to stop spinning, so now the yo-yo is just going to wind back up the string like normal. These do come oiled. Like there's actually a little bit of film on this already, so you shouldn't need to lube them or anything like that. but the O-ring does come off, just like that, so you can make it not return automatically, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But it's super easy to put back on. But once you have it back on there, you just make sure that the rubber O-ring goes inside the one with the clamps, and just push it in there. And also make sure if it's playing weird, that since it's double looped on there, one of those strings can come undone and get like tied up somewhere. So open it up and check it just to make sure. But then you just put it back on and twist it. And don't twist it horribly tight, but it'll stop by itself and you can't really twist it anymore. So once it's good and tight, then you're good. Then you wind it up and you're good to go. Now, as far as how this yo-yo plays, this actually plays really nice. You can see the shape is really smooth and rounded, like a lot of the looping yo-yos are. This is a pulse. This is a little bit fatter, but you can see it's very nice and thin and rounded. So that means this yo-yo is great for doing looping tricks, where you throw it out, it comes back, and you throw it back out again, and you just loop over and over again. This is really good for that, especially with that auto return in there. It's a little hard to do like around the worlds and tricks where you have to make it sleep on the end, and you're doing looping, because if it's sleeping and looping, it's going to really spin really quick and want to come back before you're done with your trick. But you can see it's a much different shape than a lot of modern yo-yos now. This is the Sage, which is from Yo-Yo Tricks, which is a great site to learn tricks at, by the way. You can see how the shape is very different. These are all about doing string tricks. This one can't really do string tricks. You can do some really quick, simple stuff, but because of the auto return and the fact that this gap is so thin, you can see how wide this gap is, how thin this gap is. The string tricks are really, really hard to do. You can do them, but most of the time it will just eat up the string and come back up your hand. But let's actually take it outside and see how well it actually plays. So with the auto return yo-yo like this, if you do some light throws, it'll go down and come right back up pretty easy. So this is good practice to actually get your throw down and get it coming back every time and get your throw straight. So when you throw it down harder, is when it sleeps. And with the auto return, when it slows down, it'll eventually come back on the string by itself. Normally, you have to tug up on the yo-yo to get it to come back. But with this one, it will not come back at all until it slows down and comes back up the string. Plus, it kind of makes monkey noises when it squeaks, so that kind of fits, I think. But like I was saying, this is really good for the looping tricks, so like the forward pass, all that kind of stuff. And if you're good at it, you can loop, which I'm not. But it's not good at string tricks. So if you try and get it on the string, you can get it on there, but since the gap is so thin, it'll stop the spin really fast and come back up really quick. And the only way to get it to come back up, like I said, is to wait for it to slow down, and that auto return kicks in and comes back up. You can, if you're any good at it, do a bind to get it to come back, but since that gap is super thin, it's really hard to. So it's really good for looping tricks, forward passes, all that kind of stuff, but it is not great for string tricks like Man on the Trapeze, because that gap is so thin. Even if it does land on it, it will eat up the string and go right to your finger. So it is really good. So before I forget, I wanted to show you guys how it works without the O-ring in it, like I said earlier. It doesn't really make it sleep for much longer. It does a little bit, but not, significantly. But because the O-ring's out, the only way to get it to come back at all is to do the bind. So it's actually, if you want to get a, sophisticated, unresponsive yo-yo, this is a good way to practice for it, especially for $6. Because if you can get the bind working on this little bitty gap, you can definitely do it on a big wide gap yo-yo. But I just want to show you guys how that works. Okay, so that is my review on the Blazing Team Level 2 Beast Wrangler yo-yo. Like I said, I really like it, especially for $6. This is cheaper than pretty much every other good yo-yo out there. It's really good for beginners wanting to get the hang of yo-yo. You can do some tricks on it, like I showed you, but it is hard to do string tricks, which is what's the most popular these days. But for $6, you really can't get any better than this. I would love to find some more. I only found this one sitting in the wrong spot at a Walmart, and there was no other ones in the inventory, so I have no idea how that happened. but hopefully I can find some eventually to review some more. If you guys have any questions, like always, just let me know, and thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day.